Good morning.
Good morning.
My good friend Joshua Igara, the Group CEO of Kenya Commercial Bank. I've seen quite a number of friends in the audience, Lady Justice Njoki Ndungu, Sylvia and the team from Safaricom, my good friend Polycarp Igade, and all of you participants and organizers of this fantastic meeting. I start first of all by thanking the organizers for the opportunity to be here this morning. Secondly, before I make my remarks, I would like to convey very warm regards and greetings from His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, who was looking forward to be here. As you know, our president has increasingly become the poster child of modern, strong African leadership and has been recognized as such by a number of institutions, including the UN. But unfortunately, because he's working out of town in Mombasa, he couldn't make it, and he asked me to convey his sincere regards to you. Secondly, I want to confess that when Joshua spoke to me about coming here, first of all, wondered whether I have anything to offer anyway, where a leadership discussion is happening. But he insisted and said I could come and say a thing or two. So I will not even read a speech. I will speak very candidly from my heart. First of all, for the organizers of this meeting, thank you very much. Conversations on leadership is something that we need to have, not just in our country, but across the continent. I thank the Lord that I have had an opportunity in the last 7 years to serve my country in the position of a cabinet secretary. During the 7 years, I have also had an opportunity to learn a lot about our country, and work with fellow Kenyans, and face tough times and tough decisions. And so I begin by saying this, right from Chinua Achebe, who was quoted here by Joshua Igara, to J.C. Maxwell, to as many authors as you like to bring in. The fact of life is this: human society, in whatever organization, whether it's in small groups, as families, or as society, or as a country, or as a region, we rise and fall depending on the kind of leadership we have. And therefore, for us, not just as Kenyans, but as Africans, this is a good time to talk about leadership. At the beginning of this decade, when in my previous life in the academy, we used to debate a lot, President Thabo Mbeki of South Africa came up with the African Renaissance and said, Africa is now being reborn, and Africa is facing new challenges and going to break new grounds. And everywhere, even international media began to scream that this is Africa's decade. And it was Africa's decade because we have probably the largest conglomeration of talent in the numbers of our young people, huge deposits of resources, and we are endowed in more ways than one and have the capacity to succeed. But unfortunately, I think, and I asked Joshua whether I could speak candidly. He said, yes, I can. Unfortunately, I think we have not effectively addressed the challenges of leadership we face in our continent, in our countries, and in our communities. And if there's anything I've learned the last 7 years I've been in government, is that we could do a lot more than we are doing, if we actually addressed some of the challenges we have in leadership. We have very serious weaknesses in our leadership. Sometimes in our environment or even in our countries, I honestly think we spend too much time on politics, more time than we should. And this hurts the potential that we have to do great things. I do not know who cast us, but I don't know why we sleep and wake up thinking about things that could not move us to the next level, like belongings, where we come from, who we are. And half the time we are lost in debates on pettiness, and we lose sight of the big things that we need to do that could unlock our potential and cause us to succeed. So I will share just about 5 lessons I've learned in the last 7 years as the minister. One, to succeed as leaders, we need to master enough courage. One of my favorite books in scripture is the book of Joshua. And 11 times or more, because that's from the version of the Bible that I read, the Lord kept telling Joshua, be courageous, do not be afraid. Surely God himself would not tell a human being not to be afraid if he didn't think you can actually be afraid. Because you can be afraid. 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to share with you practical real experiences. About 2 weeks ago, for the Kenyans in the room, I went to Mombasa. I decided on that Sunday morning with my team in the security sector to spend time to walk through Kisauni, from end to end of Kisauni. I met huge numbers of young Kenyans. 9 out of 10 people I met that morning, I swear, are below the age of 30. And about 6 out of those 10 people could not account for themselves because they are totally dazed, affected by the amount of drugs they have consumed. And as we tried to even have conversations, it was impossible to have a conversation with them. In fact, you have to stand very carefully or else they can even fall on you. And you can see in the lives of those people the effect of the weaknesses we've had in managing ourselves and how, because of our craze and worship for money, we have betrayed our own people in terms of protecting them against drug traffickers and drug dealers. And we actually stare at the reality of losing almost a generation in that part of the country. And that is because of leadership. To confront challenges like those, you need courage. The conviction to contest convention. When I came into government, the most common thing you hear in government is when you ask people, why can't we do this? The most common answer is, that is how we have always done it. We don't want to do it differently because this is the way we have always done it. And yet, that way we have always done it has not worked for us. Whether it is setting exams and selling them and rigging them and cooking up grades that do not exist, people tell you that's how we have always done it. Even when you ask a very simple question, why do we mark exams and complete the marking by December, and then wait to release the results in March? They tell you that's how we have always done it. Because in between here we have 3 months to cook results, to interfere with the results and do what needs to be done. We need courage. My brothers and sisters, there is no day like another in leadership. Every day is new, and every challenge is new. In most cases, the challenges we face are daunting, whether you're talking about leading your own family or leading your organization. You must start with the conviction to challenge convention, that I am going to ask the question, why can't we do it differently? When I was in the youth group in church, we used to sing a chorus that time, which ended like, dare to be a Daniel, and dare to stand alone, and dare to have a purpose, and live by it. So secondly, to succeed as leaders, really must have a purpose beyond self. We will not achieve anything as families, as communities, as a country, if we do not have in leadership the commitment to look beyond self. And again, let me tell you very sincerely, it's okay, it's fine and dandy actually to be a minister. I mean, you are paid well, you are driven around, you're even given bodyguards. You can drive for 7 days without going to the petrol station to fuel your car. But you know, you can also be lost in that sort of opulence and you do nothing for the people who in the first place are the reasons why you hold the position. And for me, I want to be honest with you. Every day I wake up, I ask myself the question, what are the pains that those people out there expect us to resolve? So that, because once you ask that question, you will not see a limit to the extent you need to apply yourself. I have never seen a limit to the extent I would like to apply myself if I am going to solve a problem, because you think about the problems of those people. I used to meet people when I was Minister for Education who were very surprised that I would wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning to go to the containers. And I told them, I have no problem staying awake all night if that means that those children get genuine grades and they move forward in a genuine manner. My comfort means nothing. I could stay in my house, wake up in the morning, chances are that by the time I get to the door, there will be someone to salute me, even if I've done nothing. Then be driven back left, enjoy the comfort of this life. But that hasn't changed the lives of the people for whom we actually, in the first place, are employed. So, our lives really must have a purpose. There must be something you live for. And that something cannot be the comfort of your office. And for us to make the change that we need to make, we must always ask ourselves that question. What do we live for? What is the purpose of what we are doing? One of my former bosses told me that if you leave an organization and people do not miss you, or no one misses anything you are doing, it means you ought not to have been there in the first place anyway, because you never made an impact. So I go around telling public servants, okay, if you can do nothing, at least plant even trees so that when you are gone, someone might say, these trees were planted here when so-and-so was the minister. At least do something, as it were. At least do something. Move to the next level. Thirdly, there is no way we can achieve anything without sacrifice. Frankly speaking, leadership and sacrifice are two sides of one coin. We have to make sacrifices. Sacrificing comfort is one thing. But most importantly, sacrificing the petty small things or small comforts or conveniences of this life is even much more important. I have been giving people an example that, in public life, in dysfunctional societies, you can make a lot of money when you are a corrupt person. Because people come and tell you, they try to offer you things. and tell you, they can do this or that or the other for you. The sacrifice you have to make is to win yourself, first of all, out of those challenges, and then secondly, stand firm. I know the word firm is very common in my press conferences because I insist we will be firm on these things and we will not change. Why? Because I know people actually can change. And you can be talked to at night and you change. And influential people can come and persuade you to change and offer you other things and tell you, we do this business, we are good brewers and we have a lot of money. We can change your life if we offered you so much, because I know you can change. So making a sacrifice and sacrificing some of those is very important, because there is no way you can achieve anything without making the sacrifice. Fourthly, it's about our character. And I'll tell you why I think many of our politicians and many political leaders across this continent are not respected by people. And respect is not the sound of the claps you receive at public rallies or the songs that people sing for you. I believe genuinely that respect comes out of inspiration when you inspire people and you change their lives. And there are very few people who are that respected, because in much of our public life, a lot of our leaders are two people walking around as one. There is you who stands up before people, and there is the real you when you are away from the public. Strength of character is very important. Carrying big Bibles and pontificating religious theory is not the way. We have to live what we tell people to do. And then sometimes, let me be honest with you, my brothers and sisters, sometimes plain, straightforward living is in itself leadership. You lead by example. So strength of character. And sometimes the strongest test is the one you face when you are within the budget office as the leader. You have to go through several police officers to come in. And then when you get in, you are in that budget office, you are closed in there, you are alone. And most times you make decisions in there when you are alone. That is when your character is most tested, as it were. Because those people you lie to over weekends, on church pulpits, are not there. It's just between you and your God. The strength of character to be able to say, this is the way we will follow, and it's for the good of the people for whom I work. This is, I honestly think that across this continent, both in private sector and in public sector, if we lived this way, one, we will raise generations of strong people. Our young people who look up to us will be inspired enough to live right and to do the right thing. But if we tell people one thing and do the other, and honestly we are not strong characters, we obviously will lose out in the process. I would like to conclude by saying this. I cannot thank the Lord enough for the opportunity I have had to serve my country. There is no nobler thing that can happen to you as a citizen of a country than to be asked to serve your country in whatever respect, whether as a police officer, as a clerk, or as a minister. I am grateful, and I will eternally be grateful to God for the opportunity I've had to serve my country. Most importantly, I'll be grateful to my president for the opportunity he has given me to serve under him. Because a lot of people ask me, there are several times people have thought I'm going to be fired for taking certain decisions. And I've told them I will not move 1 centimeter if I have not agreed with my boss. And the fortunate thing about strong leadership at the top in a country is because you don't bargain or think about political will. Our president is transformational in his leadership, and he is focused on changing our country. And when we have discussions on things that need to be done, even when we have to make tough decisions, I will always move because I know my boss also believes we need to crack the cartels in the textbook distribution so that we can achieve the 1-to-1 book pupil ratio. And so I have no problem facing them and telling them to actually find something better to do, but we are going to succeed in what we want to do because we are determined to do it, as it were. And as long as you have sufficient political will and you are determined and you have the courage to contest convention, to move away from the ordinary, and as long as you are driven by a purpose that looks beyond yourself, that thinks about those people out there, you will always succeed. I thank God for the experience I've had, and I'll close by sharing this experience with you. One day after the release of exams in 2017, I was coming home, and you know, Kenyans are very vulnerable. We express ourselves sometimes we don't hide. So a middle-aged woman met me on the queue at the airport in Dubai. And she asked me, "Are you Matiang'i?" I tried to tell her to lower her voice. But she obviously was very excited. She could not lower her voice. Then when I said yes, she raised her voice and said, "Oh, wow," you know. But anyway, she was very excited, to cut a long story short, because she showed me, I have the letter of my child who has been admitted to school X, and I have printed it out here in Dubai, and I'm now going to Nairobi to pay fees and take the child to school. In the past, I would have had to go there a month earlier to look for someone to help me get her from one place and suffer. Probably bribe someone, probably have the letter get lost. And when I told my colleagues at the Ministry of Education, why do we go through a laborious exercise of pulling everybody together and selecting children in a manual way so that we can provide an opportunity for rent seekers to look for bribes? They told me, this is how we have always done it. And I said, let's try it at a different time, in this era of technology. And every parent will just basically get the index number of the child, and they will go into the system once we have selected them and print out their letter of admission and go to school. They don't have to talk to us here in Jogo House. They don't have to come here so that we look big and important and keep them on a queue, as it were. Because all they need is that simple thing. For many parents, they just need to get their letter and take their child to school. They don't need, and by them doing that, we will not have become small people anyway. We'll still be the people we are here. But those people will have received the services they need, as it were. The second reason why I thank the Lord is that through these 7 years, I have seen how making radical decisions can actually affect people's lives in a positive way. And it changes people's lives. And these things do change. And so, if there's anything I pray about every day, is that as long as God gives me life and opportunity, when I meet an opportunity to make a decision, I'll make the right decision, regardless of who is on the other side. The right decision, regardless of who I'm going against. Especially if it's a decision that is going to be for the good of our people, and a decision that is going to be for the good of fellow men. That is what I believe God wants us to do. That's what leadership entails. I wish you all the best, and I look forward to learning. And I want to urge you, my parting words are these: arise and lead. When the Bible asks us to arise and shine, But I'm asking you to arise and lead. Leading means gather the courage to do the right thing, the different thing, be driven by a purpose beyond yourself, and look out there at something that will make a difference, the desire for difference. When you walk out of that place, let people see the difference. If you desire difference, that is what really will make a change and meaning. And that's why I'm asking all of us here to arise and lead as we move forward. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to declare this conference officially open. May the Lord bless you.